There's a 28-year-old woman named Sarah living in a one-bedroom apartment she shares with two roommates. She has a college degree. She works 50 hours a week. She still can't afford to move out. Her parents bought their first house at 25. She can't even afford the down payment, and she's done the math. Even if she saved aggressively for 5 years, housing prices would rise faster than her savings. She's running on a treadmill that's speeding up. Her grandfather worked at a factory for 30 years, no college degree, and retired with a pension, a paid-off house, and money in the bank. Sarah has a master's degree and $87,000 in student debt. She'll be paying it off until she's 50. In Ohio, there's a 42-year-old man named Marcus who did everything right. Went to college. Got a good job. Worked his way up. Then his company downsized, outsourced his department, and replaced him with someone half his age making half his salary. He's been applying to jobs for 8 months. Nothing. He's overqualified for entry-level positions and too expensive for the roles he's actually qualified for. His savings are gone. His retirement account is drained. He's about to lose his house. Across the country, there's a 17-year-old named Tyler who just got accepted to his dream university. His parents are proud. When they sat down and looked at the numbers, tuition, housing, fees, they realized he'd graduate $120,000 in debt. For a degree that might get him a $45,000 a year job. If he's lucky. His parents told him maybe consider community college first. He feels like he's already losing before he's even started. 3 generations. 3 completely different realities. All of them are asking the same question. Is the American dream actually dead? The idea that if you work hard, play by the rules, and do everything you're supposed to do, you'll be able to build a good life, own a home, support a family, and retire with dignity. That promise, the promise that defined America for generations, feels like a lie now. Today, we're going to find out if it really is. The American dream used to be simple. You didn't need to be rich. You didn't need to be brilliant. You just needed to work hard. Get a job. Show up. Put in your time. In return, you'd get a house with a white picket fence, a car in the driveway, a family you could provide for, and a retirement where you weren't eating cat food to survive. That was the deal. That was the promise America made to its people. For a long time, it actually worked. In the 1950s and 60s, a single income could support an entire family. A factory worker could buy a house, own a car, send his kids to college, and retire comfortably. No degree required. Just show up, work hard, and the system rewarded you. Somewhere along the way, something broke. Now, that same factory worker's grandkids are working 2 jobs with college degrees and still can't afford rent. The numbers don't lie. In 1970, the median home price in America was roughly twice the median household income. Today, it's nearly 7 times the median income. In 1980, college tuition at a public university cost about $1,500 a year. Adjusted for inflation, that's around $5,000 in today's money. Today, the average public university costs $28,000 a year. Not adjusted. That's the actual number. In 1970, the federal minimum wage had the purchasing power of about $12 an hour in today's money. Today, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. It's gone backwards. In the 1960s, CEO pay was about 20 times the average worker's salary. Today, it's over 300 times. The wealth gap between the top 1% and everyone else is wider than it's been since the Great Depression. Here's the kicker. Productivity has skyrocketed. American workers are producing more than ever before. Technology, efficiency, automation. We're getting more done in less time. Wages haven't kept up. At all. Where's all that extra wealth going? Straight to the top. The system is rigged, and everyone knows it. Boomers tell millennials and Gen Z, just work harder. I paid for college with a summer job. Yeah, because college cost $1,500 a year and you could buy a house for $25,000. Try doing that today. Just stop buying avocado toast and lattes. Cool. Except the average millennial would need to skip lattes for 150 years to afford a down payment on a house in most major cities. The math doesn't math. The system that rewarded hard work for previous generations is punishing this generation for trying to do the same thing. Here's what's actually happening. The cost of living has exploded while wages have stagnated. Housing, education, healthcare. The three biggest expenses in life have all skyrocketed at rates far beyond inflation. Meanwhile, wages have barely budged. In the 1970s, you could work a minimum wage job full-time and afford rent, food, and basic expenses. Today, in most American cities, minimum wage doesn't even cover rent. Not rent plus food. Just rent. You'd need to work 60 to 80 hours a week just to afford a one-bedroom apartment. That's not living. That's surviving. It's not just minimum wage workers. Middle-class jobs that used to provide stability, teaching, nursing, skilled trades, aren't keeping up either. Teachers in some states are working second jobs just to make ends meet. Nurses are drowning in student debt. Electricians and plumbers are doing okay, though they're the exception, not the rule. Then there's student debt. An entire generation was told go to college. It's the only way to succeed. Don't worry about the cost. You'll make it back with a good job. They went. They took out loans. They got degrees. Then they graduated into the worst job market in decades. Twice. First the 2008 recession, then the COVID pandemic. Now they're saddled with debt they can't discharge in bankruptcy, working jobs that don't pay enough to cover the loan payments, let alone save for a house or retirement. The system sold them a lie. Here's the cruel irony. Even if you do everything right, even if you get the degree, land a good job, and start climbing the ladder, one medical emergency can wipe you out. One layoff can destroy everything you've built. There's no safety net. No security. Just constant anxiety that one bad break will send you spiraling. This isn't the American dream. This is the American tightrope. One slip, and you're done. People are tired. They're angry. They're asking what's the point of working this hard if I'm never going to get ahead? Because that's the reality for millions of Americans right now. They're not lazy. They're not entitled. They're working harder than their parents ever did and getting less in return. Here's the question nobody wants to ask. Is the American dream coming back? Or is it gone for good? Some people say it's dead and buried. That we're living in late-stage capitalism where the game is over and the rich won. That the best we can do is survive, not thrive. That the next generation will be worse off than this one, and there's nothing we can do about it. Others say it's not dead. It just evolved. That the old version of the dream, house, car, 2.5 kids, corporate job, was never sustainable anyway. That the new dream is about flexibility, experiences over possessions, side hustles, digital nomad life, redefining success on your own terms. Here's the problem with that. It sounds like cope. Like we're rebranding failure as freedom. I can't afford a house, so actually, I don't want one. Minimalism is my choice. Maybe for some people, that's genuinely true. For most, it's just making peace with a system that's failing them. The real question is, do we want the American dream back? If so, what does that even look like in 2024? The old model was built on exploitation too. Post-World War II prosperity was built on the backs of segregation, women being shut out of the workforce, and other countries' resources being extracted. The white picket fence dream was only available to some people. Maybe the American dream was always a myth. A story we told ourselves to justify a system that only worked for a select few. Or maybe the dream was real, though it was incomplete. What we need isn't to resurrect the old version. We need to build a new one. One where everyone has access to housing, healthcare, and education. Where hard work actually pays off. Where corporations can't buy politicians. Where the economy serves people, not the other way around. That's possible. It's not even that complicated. Other countries have done it. Universal healthcare. Affordable education. Strong labor protections. Living wages. It's not a fantasy. It's policy. The question is, do we have the political will to fight for it? Or are we too divided, too exhausted, too beaten down to demand better? Here's where I want to bring this back to something deeper. This isn't just an economic question. It's a spiritual one. The American dream, at its core, was always about security. The belief that if you worked hard enough, you'd be safe. You'd be stable. You'd be okay. When that security disappears, when the system fails you despite doing everything right, it creates a crisis of meaning. People don't just lose their homes or their savings. They lose hope. They lose faith in the system, in the future, in themselves. There's a danger in putting all your hope in any earthly system. The American dream was never meant to be a god. For a lot of people, it became one. The belief that material success equals happiness. That security equals peace. That if you just get the house, the job, the retirement account, everything will be okay. Here's what every human being eventually learns. It's not enough. Even people who achieve the dream, who get the house, the money, the success, still feel empty. Still feel anxious. Still feel like something's missing. Security isn't found in systems. It's found in something transcendent. Economic justice matters. It absolutely does. Fighting for fair wages, affordable housing, accessible healthcare. That's righteous work. That's loving your neighbor. That's standing up for the oppressed. Even as we fight for those things, we have to remember ultimate security doesn't come from a system. It comes from knowing you're held by something bigger than any government, any economy, any empire. The Bible talks about this constantly. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven." He wasn't saying don't work. He wasn't saying don't provide for your family. He was saying don't put your hope in things that can be taken from you. Everything earthly can be taken. Your job. Your house. Your savings. Your health. One economic crash, one medical emergency, one policy change, and it's gone. There's a kind of security that can't be taken. A kind of peace that doesn't depend on your bank account. A kind of hope that survives even when the system collapses. The early Christians understood this better than we do. They lived under Roman occupation. Most of them were poor. Many were slaves. They had no American dream to chase. No promise of upward mobility. Yet, they had joy. They had peace. They had hope. Not because their circumstances were good. They weren't. Their hope wasn't in their circumstances. It was in something eternal. They believed that this world, with all its injustice and suffering, wasn't the end of the story. That there was a kingdom coming where every wrong would be made right. Where the last would be first. Where the oppressed would be lifted up and the oppressors would face justice. That belief changed everything. It didn't make them passive. The early church was radically generous. They shared their resources. They took care of widows and orphans. They challenged systems of injustice. They did it from a place of security, not scarcity. They weren't fighting for the American dream. They were living out the kingdom dream. Here's the crazy part. That same option is available to you today. You can keep chasing a dream that's rigged against you, that's designed to keep you anxious and exhausted and striving. Or you can root yourself in something unshakable. Something that doesn't depend on policy, the stock market, or whether you can afford a house. I'm not saying give up on justice. I'm saying fight for it from a place of peace. Fight because it's right, not because your identity depends on winning. Even if we fix the economy, even if we create a system that's fair and just and provides for everyone, it still won't be enough. Human beings aren't just economic creatures. We're spiritual beings. We have souls that need more than material security. We need meaning. We need purpose. We need to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We need to know we're loved, not because of what we produce or achieve, simply because we exist. No political system, no economic model, no American dream can give you that. Only God can. The question is, how did we get here? What happened? How did the richest country in human history create a system where working people can't afford to live? Here's the truth. The game changed, though nobody told the players. Starting in the 1980s, economic policy in America shifted. Taxes on the wealthy were slashed. Corporate regulations were gutted. Unions were dismantled. The idea was trickle-down economics. If you make the rich richer, they'll create jobs and everyone benefits. Spoiler alert. It didn't trickle down. It pooled at the top. Corporations got massive tax breaks and used the money to buy back their own stock, enriching shareholders and executives. They didn't raise wages. They didn't hire more workers. They didn't invest in communities. They hoarded wealth. Meanwhile, manufacturing jobs, the backbone of the middle class, were shipped overseas where labor was cheaper. Factories closed. Towns died. The workers who built America were told learn to code or go back to school. Except retraining programs were underfunded and ineffective, and going back to school meant taking on debt they couldn't afford. Healthcare costs exploded because the system became profit-driven instead of care-driven. Insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, hospital conglomerates. They're not trying to heal you. They're trying to extract maximum profit. They've succeeded. Americans pay more for healthcare than any other developed nation and get worse outcomes. Housing became an investment commodity instead of a basic human need. Corporations and foreign investors started buying up properties, driving up prices, turning homes into assets to flip rather than places for families to live. Rent exploded. Home ownership became a fantasy for an entire generation. Through it all, wages stayed flat. Corporations realized they didn't have to pay workers more. Unions were weak. Regulations were gutted. Workers had no leverage. Why pay more when you can pay less and pocket the difference? The American dream didn't die naturally. It was killed. Slowly. Deliberately. By policy decisions that prioritized corporate profit over human dignity. Now we're living in the aftermath. Here's where it gets even darker. The system isn't just broken. It's designed to keep you trapped. Take student loans. You can discharge almost any debt in bankruptcy. Credit cards, medical bills, even gambling debt. Not student loans. Why? Because the government and private lenders lobbied to make sure you can never escape. You're locked in for life. They own you. Look at credit scores. A system allegedly designed to measure financial responsibility actually just measures how profitable you are to lenders. Miss one payment because you had an emergency? Your score tanks. Now you can't get a loan, or if you do, it's at a predatory interest rate that keeps you in debt longer. The system punishes poverty. Consider gig economy jobs. Uber, DoorDash, freelance work. They're marketed as freedom and flexibility. Really, it's corporations offloading all the risk onto workers. No benefits. No job security. No retirement. No sick days. You're an independent contractor, which means you get all the responsibility and none of the protections. It's not freedom. It's exploitation with a tech veneer. Healthcare? If you lose your job, you lose your insurance. Get sick without insurance, and you're bankrupted. Medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in America. The wealthiest country on earth, and people are choosing between life-saving medication and paying rent. That's not a functioning system. That's cruelty. Even retirement is a scam now. Pensions used to be standard. You worked for a company for 30 years, they took care of you when you retired. Companies realized, why give workers guaranteed retirement when we can make them gamble in the stock market? They replaced pensions with 401ks. Now your retirement depends on market performance, and if the market crashes when you're 65, congratulations, you're working until you die. The American dream promised security. The American reality is precarity. Everything is uncertain. Everything is temporary. The people at the top keep telling you it's your fault. You're not working hard enough. You're making bad choices. You should have picked a better major. You should have saved more. You should have been smarter. Meanwhile, they're hoarding wealth, lobbying for tax breaks, and rigging the game so they never lose. Here's what's insidious. The system has convinced people that struggling is normal. That being one paycheck away from disaster is just how life is. That working yourself to exhaustion and still not getting ahead is your fault, not the system's. It wasn't always like this. Your grandparents didn't work 3 jobs to survive. They didn't graduate with 6 figures of debt. They didn't spend 50% of their income on rent. This isn't normal. This is a policy choice. Here's the thing that should make you furious. The wealth exists. America isn't poor. There's more wealth in this country than ever before in history. It's just concentrated in the hands of a few hundred people. The 3 richest Americans have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the country combined. Think about that. 3 people. More than 165 million people. If wealth were distributed even remotely fairly, everyone in America could have housing, healthcare, education, and a comfortable life. Instead, billionaires are building rocket ships to space while teachers are buying classroom supplies with their own money. Jeff Bezos makes more in 10 seconds than most Americans make in a year. Amazon warehouse workers are peeing in bottles because they don't have time for bathroom breaks. Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. Money he could have used to end homelessness in America multiple times over. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's designed to extract wealth from the many and concentrate it in the hands of the few. The people at the top want you to blame yourself, blame immigrants, blame the poor, blame anyone except the people actually rigging the game. They want you fighting over crumbs while they feast. They want you so exhausted from working multiple jobs that you don't have the energy to demand change. They want you so deep in debt that you can't afford to take risks, to protest, to organize. Because the moment working people wake up and realize the system is rigged, the moment they stop fighting each other and start demanding justice, everything changes. That's what scares them. Not your anger. Your unity. Is the American dream dead? Honestly? For a lot of people, yes. The version of the dream that promised security, stability, and upward mobility in exchange for hard work, that's gone. The system is rigged. The game is broken. Pretending otherwise is just gaslighting an entire generation. Maybe the death of the American dream is an opportunity. An opportunity to build something better. Something that doesn't just benefit a select few. Something that prioritizes human dignity over corporate profit. Something that recognizes that a society is only as strong as its most vulnerable members. We can create a system where healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Where education doesn't bankrupt you. Where housing is affordable. Where work pays a living wage. Where retirement is secure. Other countries have done it. We can too. It requires political will. It requires solidarity. It requires people waking up and refusing to accept a system that treats them as disposable. Even more than that, it requires us to remember that our worth doesn't come from any system. The American dream was never big enough to hold the full weight of human longing. We're not just economic creatures. We're not just workers and consumers. We're souls. We need meaning. We need purpose. We need connection. We need love. We need hope. No government, no economy, No dream can provide that. Only God can. Fight for justice. Demand better systems. Work for change. Root yourself in something deeper. Something that can't be taken from you. Something that survives economic collapse, political chaos, personal failure. Root yourself in the knowledge that you are loved. That your life has meaning. That this world, broken as it is not the end of the story. There's a kingdom coming where every wrong will be made right. Where the last will be first. Where tears will be wiped away. Where justice will reign. That kingdom isn't just some far-off future. It's breaking into the present every time you choose generosity over greed. Every time you choose community over isolation. Every time you choose hope over despair. The American dream might be dead. The kingdom dream is very much alive. It's big enough to hold all of us. That's what the Great Question Project is all about. We're not here to give you easy answers or make you comfortable. We're here to ask the hardest questions humanity faces. Questions about medicine, history, relationships, religion, society. We explore them honestly, deeply, and courageously. The greatest questions don't always have easy answers. They're worth asking anyway. They stretch us. They challenge us. They force us to think beyond ourselves, beyond our comfortable assumptions, beyond the shallow waters into the deep. If this video made you think, if it gave you hope or challenged your perspective or just made you feel less alone in your questions, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Join us as we continue exploring the questions that matter most. Thank you for watching. Remember, your worth isn't determined by what you earn. Your security isn't found in any system. The story isn't over yet. There's still hope. There's still fight left. There's still a kingdom worth building.